Phase B blindness occurs in all kinds of firms led by all kinds of good people, and it's natural. It's very human. Your business is doing well, has been doing well for months, and then quarters, and then maybe even a year or two, and there develops a sense of euphoria. We got this, or we got this figured out. And in more candid moments, the CEO, generally the CEO, could be senior staff, starts thinking, yeah, look what we did. You know, this is us. And that's human too. And I'm not trying to put anybody down. It's just part of the psyche of what goes on. And you forget that there's something else coming, because there's always something else coming. And in our work in our first book, Make Your Move, we ascertained by asking people, will there be a recession or a downturn? Absolutely. When? 6 months from now. And no matter when you ask them, it's 6 months from now. And so it's always 6 months out, which means I got time. And I'll see it coming. And of course they don't. It's just because they're human. Nothing more than that. Sometimes it's hubris. That also occurs, but most often it's just because they're human. And nobody wants to fall off the cliff. Nobody wants to walk into a storm. And so you just tell yourself, you're not going to. It's as simple as that. I can think of two particularly egregious examples. One was a firm in Wisconsin, family-owned business, and I liked the CEO. He was a funny guy. We got along great. And he had me come in to address their sales team in their company, and they were open book. I mean, they just had all kinds of positive things going for them, and they were near the top of the business cycle but didn't know it. And all of a sudden I noticed, not all of a sudden, but when I got there, I noticed, this is a brand new building. And there was still more construction going on. And I gave my presentation and told them that they were soon going to be going into phase C, slowing growth, but it was going to be quick. And next thing you know, they're going to be in phase D, sales below year-ago levels, which will impact their cash flow, and which makes this a very expensive proposition to be going through right now. And he took it well, took it like a grown-up, and went to talk to his board. He called me back later, and he said, the board said, tell Alan not to worry, all we have to do is sell more. And I thought, you have and I actually asked him, I said, you have a family board, don't you? He said, yeah. I said, friend, you gotta get a professional board going, because that's horrible advice. Everybody says that. Everybody believes they can just sell more. Fast forward the story, that building killed them. And the business was no more by the time the recession was over. They just ran out of cash. Simple as that. Another example is one of hubris, we got this kind of attitude. The CEO is very confident in himself, shall we say. Had a lot of MBAs around him. I remember exactly where I was when I delivered the news that they were going to be going into phase C and then into phase D, and cautioned them against capital expenditures, cautioned them about cash, cautioned them about a whole lot of things, because they were an upper end product. And in a downturn, people go from best to better, and sometimes down to good, but they were the best. And so they were very expensive, and they were just convinced that it didn't matter. As a matter of fact, they fired me on the spot, which is why I remember it. I got to that part, they said, never mind, you're done, you can leave now. And I thought, well, okay, that happens. You know, I'm a grown-up, that's fine. And 6 months later, creditors had taken over the company, and the CEO was fired. And a new CEO was installed, and a lot of the senior staff was replaced as well, because they walked blindly into a storm they could have seen coming. I mean, those are two big examples, but they're real, they happen. And to a lesser extent, it can happen to just about anybody. I was just talking last week to a client who started using rate of change. How you see this coming is all because of rate of change and leading indicators. It's not a mystery, it's not magic, it's on our website, it's all available, it's free content, rate of change. And I was talking to him, he says, you know, Alan, we started using rate of change. And I said, that's great. He says, yeah, he says, and what I've done, he says, I went back in time, and I did not just look at the future, I looked at my company's history and my history. He said, he said, I looked at it and I went, hey, I was happy there, but it didn't last. I was happy there, didn't see that coming. Wish I had, because that one hurt. I was happy there, didn't last. He says, so now my rates of change are telling me, don't be happy, start preparing for what's coming. And that's the magic, that's the marvel of rate of change, is that your emotions are cast to the side. We're not in the emotions business. This is about the math, and the math can tell you not only when the storm is coming, but how bad the storm will be, and therefore the extent of your preparations. Well, we do the rate of change analysis on our own company, of course. We'd be silly not to. It's the doctor not taking his own medicine. But we go beyond that, and every year, Brian, Jackie, and I each do a forecast of the next couple of years independent of each other. So we look at the leading indicators, we look at the market forces, we look at all the things that go into a forecast, and then we compare them to see if we have a consensus on what will be. That helps us eliminate the blindness also, as we each come at it in our own way. And then we change what we need to change. We will look at markets, we will look at product offerings, we'll look at what's profitable, what's marginally profitable, whether we should continue doing it. We make all those decisions as we go through Phase B so that we're ready for Phase C, slowing growth. Because our goal is the same as every other company, of course. The economy can push you into Phase C, and sometimes you're going to go into Phase C despite your best efforts, but the goal is to minimize that downside pressure and to only slow down as much as the economy makes you without succumbing to it. And that's where all the changes come in, and all the maneuvering and the thinking goes into it. How can we minimize this? And companies that can will avoid a Phase D in terms of depth and duration by being proactive, by thinking, by planning, and then by taking advantage of a Phase D. But we've gotten ahead of ourselves. It rhymes with B, but you wanted to talk about Phase B. It's being proactive, it's planning, it's changing. If you're more abound, this is the widget we make, this is how we sell the widget, this is the price we sell it for. You're just going to move with the economy, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. Well, if you have inventory, you have to carefully plan your inventory for the next year. If you continue to grow your inventory in a Phase C environment, you're going to have too much, and that's very expensive for a lot of firms. If you don't have inventory, it's a question of figuring out how much cash you're going to need to get through the next year, especially in this business cycle, Bill, so that I don't have to get rid of people, I don't have to lay off people, and I can continue hiring really good people, and that all takes cash. So what do I need to do now so that I have enough cash for the next year? Because cash is king. And then you do look at your products for the coming year. If you're a service business, can I raise my prices? What's my value proposition? Do I have competitive advantages that will work? Those are all thoughts that should go through every board, every CEO, every leadership team's head as they come up to late Phase B. Are we ready for this, and how will we gain market share or keep market share as we go through this? Gaining it is always best, obviously. And then you have to ask yourself, how long will Phase C last? Because if you're going to end up in a Phase D, which is down and below year-ago levels, then you're thinking differently in the longer term anyway. We all saw the layoffs that just occurred in high-tech firms. They enjoyed the run-up. They absolutely enjoyed the run-up, and they hired all kinds of people. And you talk to people, they were somewhat shocked that all these layoffs occurred. Well, they hired in a bubble. So, of course, they're going to let them go when the bubble bursts. And it's as simple as that. And those are big firms that have to do earnings calls, and so they're playing to Wall Street. Most of our clients are not that way. Most of our clients can take a more measured step-back approach. And those are the ones that are going to say, all right, I'm not going to get rid of the talent. I'm going to need this talent in 2025. I'm going to need this talent as I go into the future. So what else can I do? And you look for the what else can I do? How else can I generate revenue, maximize profitability? What other costs can I cut so that I can get through this and then be ready for what rises? And that's the big challenge, right? You talk about Phase B. Phase B, you have to be thinking about your next rising trend. So I have the space from the peak of B to the bottom of C or the bottom of D to get ready so I can maximize that run up on the other side. That's a leader's challenge, to be thinking of at least a half business cycle ahead. So I'm planning my cash, my inventory, my marketing, my competitive advantages for now, and then I'm going to move in this direction in Phase C so that I'm ready for the next Phase B. And that's, by the way, where you're going to do capital expenditures and all the rest of that is when you're in Phase C or Phase D, because you have time to get it in, put it in place, train up people in operations, and then you're miles ahead of your competitors. It's fun when you do that. It's all just great fun. there's an easy way to know what is coming. It's called rate of change, and that would lead the indicators. It's your radar. You would not fly a plane into a dark future with clouds without having radar. You don't know what's ahead. Rate of change, ITR, we're the radar. And we will let you see what's coming in plenty of time to either fly around it or fly through it with everybody belted down really tightly and nobody walking through the galley. It's just going to be that kind of forward vision that you see. And with that, you just can make the decisions that will maximize stakeholder value, whoever your stakeholders are.